welcome to PeakTV. We're here with John Karantzis, the CEO of iSignthis, the top performing IPO for 2015. I'm Niv Dagan, and lovely to have you here, John, at the Peak headquarters.
Thank you, Niv. It's certainly a pleasure to be here this morning, and thanks for seeing me today.
My pleasure. John, obviously, look, iSignthis, a really compelling story. Can you tell us a little bit more about the business and what you actually do?
Sure. We, as a business, we're quite young. We listed on the stock exchange March last year. We've only been around for a couple of years, and that's been off the back of some of our patents. We've created effectively a new means of identifying people remotely, such that we can actually replace what's known as a 100-point check, or that paperwork that you need to do to identify yourself. We can do that via a fully online process for anyone located anywhere in the world.
And can you tell us a little bit more about the solutions that you do offer to your clients?
So what we do, our solutions are more for regulated entities. So when we talk about identity, we don't talk about social identity per Facebook. We talk about a legal identity per, banks, the law, buying and selling, things, opening bank accounts and so on. So a common area where our identity may be used is in areas such as gaming and trading. And by gaming we mean sports betting, wagering, casinos, and trading we mean things like equities, CFDs, binary options and so on. So typically those things are required by law. Those operators are required by law to identify a customer before they can offer you a service. What we do is allow a customer to be provisioned remotely, identify themselves remotely, and allow those operators to reach out globally and operate on a global scale.
And John, tell us a little bit more about the competitive advantage that iSignthis would have caller to some of the competitors in the market, whether it is here in Australia and obviously your target market in Europe.
Sure. The previous way of identifying a person has either been to get them in for a face-to-face interview. Then that was eventually replaced with asking the person to go to a notary or a lawyer or a judge and have the documents certified. I'm sure we've all done that.
Yep.
And you post the documents in, and that's a 7 to 21 day process before you get anything happening. Then more recently, at the end of last century, we saw the data brokers emerge, people like Veda Group or Experian. And what they did was they asked you a series of questions which were assumed to be non-public, such as your mother's maiden name, your date of birth, your place of birth, your address and so on. And if you could respond with those, that data broker would then assume that you are who you say you are for the purpose of identifying yourself. The issue this century has been with all the data breaches going on, all the hacks, social media, you expose a lot of that non-public information yourself, social engineering, people calling you, phishing you for information. A lot of that static or historic data is exposed. It's out there for sale on the internet. So if an AML, an anti-money laundering obligated operator like a bank or a gamer or a Bitcoiner seeks to identify you for the purpose of actually opening an account, the use of that static data can be fraught with all sorts of issues, because that data might have been bought and sold by hackers and someone might be out there impersonating you. That's the classic means of identity theft. What we do is we don't actually rely on that static data at all. We rely on being able to create your identity from scratch using transactions. So what we do is if you can actually execute a transaction, if you're a financially included person, if you're one of the 3.5 billion people in the world that's financially included, we can actually use any transaction from a credit card, a debit card or a bank account to identify you. And the way we do that is when a bank issues you with one of those payment instruments, a credit card or debit card or bank account, they must by law identify you to a full KYC or know your customer standard. By identifying you to a KYC standard, we then use our patented technology to confirm that you own that payment instrument. If you own that payment instrument, we can then use that as a basis for your identity, much like someone signing your passport can use that as a basis for your identity face-to-face.
Sure.
And from there we go through what's called an electronic verification process, which complies with the requirements of the various regulators around the world.
Yeah. And John, you've recently launched e-money as well and pay identity. Can you tell us a little bit more about those initiatives?
Yeah, so what we're looking at doing is, in terms of the actual payment chain, there's a series of services that we're looking to provide for our customers. So identity is at the very front end. Before an anti-money laundering regulated entity can take your money, they've got to identify you.
Sure.
What we do is we change the model a little bit. We take the payment and create the identity at the same time. So that delivers a better ROI, return on investment for our customers, because rather than having you sign up as is classic in the internet world, then they spend money on identifying you, and then you never actually put your hand in your pocket, to make a purchase. We invert that process. So what we do is we take your money first as an end user or a member of the public. By taking your money first, you're committed. if you're legitimate.
Sure.
We then use that actual transaction to start to build up your profile, so that by the time the money actually gets to our customer as a settlement, they've got the identity converging at the same time. So that means we're delivering the cash, or the money, in terms of e-money, and the identity, the KYC, simultaneously for our customer, and that's better for the consumer because it means you can get on with the business of whatever it is you want to do.
Sure.
For example, placing a bet on the Melbourne Cup with 5 minutes notice, you can actually do that with us without any delay.
Great. And 2015 obviously been an exceptional year for you, up over nearly about 1,000% since listing, which is a great milestone. Tell us more about the catalyst for 2016. What's going to drive the stock price higher going forward?
2015 was a great year for us. What we did was actually look out in terms of the market and see where we can drive best value for our shareholders. We've actually identified some key markets, both in terms of jurisdiction and in terms of sectors, where we're really pushing hard now. And those markets, as I mentioned before, are pretty much the gaming, casino, wagering, all those online markets that are high value, high frequency, high risk, high volume.
Sure.
And those markets are where we can make a difference because they're very centralised operators in jurisdictions like Cyprus, Malta, Gibraltar, here in Australia or the UK. And they run all their operations remotely. So by offering a remote identity service, we're a perfect fit for them. By bringing in the e-money and making sure that the money comes together with identity, it speeds up the process for everyone involved. So it doesn't matter whether you're looking to make an equity trade, on the ISX and open up a new account, maybe with an online broker, CFDs, binary options, foreign exchange, the FX, or get into some classic wagering or gaming. We're certainly there to make that process better for consumer and a lot smarter for the obligated operator.
Fantastic. John, you've covered a lot today, so really, really appreciate you coming in to the Peak headquarters and having us here with you, and wish you all the very best for 2016. So thanks very much.
Great, thank you very much.